This video is sponsored by sellcashier.com. They compare iPhone prices on the internet and give you their instant quote and the most cash for your iPhone.
Hey guys, this is Ed with Aquarium. So the iPhone XR is officially on sale, and at the time of this video, all iPhone XR models with different colors are available at all 5 Apple stores near me. Actually, Apple stores around the world open their doors this Friday for the first day selling the iPhone XR, and while Apple has offered something a little different than on previous launches, more colors and arguably the best bang for your buck from the iPhone in years, the lines of Apple fans were nowhere to be seen. I pre-ordered this iPhone XR the very first hour when it was available for pre-ordering 1 week ago. Just bear in mind as we unbox this creature is that its screen resolution is going to be different. Its pixel per inch density is going to be at 326 compared to over 400 with the iPhone's flagships. There is no 3D touch on this model. It does although come with the A12 Bionic chip, and also does not have the dual lens and does not have the telephoto wide angle photo taking. So without further ado, let's get into unboxing of this creature and get into the performance and battery test part of this video. As always, a very nice box by Apple, very high quality, and comes with all the standard inserts like all the other phones, but it feels a little bit different. It doesn't feel like the flagships that Apple produces and releases pretty much every year nowadays. This is a less expensive version, of course, compared to the XS Max, but a very comparable size here. So this is the XR and this is the XS Max in gold, and this is a white one. So XR is white, and I'm gonna quickly go through the setup process. You don't necessarily need to see that because all iPhones are pretty much identical, but look at the screen size, how much smaller it is and how thick the bezels are, and that's probably one of the reasons people do not find this as appealing as the flagships, like again like the XS Max or the XS. And so before we begin our comparison, just want to point out the fact that this device is actually thicker than the predecessors that were just recently released, both the XS and the XS Max. It doesn't feel as expensive. Again, visually, the screen bezels are thicker, and which therefore makes the screen look a little bit or appear a little bit smaller. Of course, it's going to be enough for all of your activities like movie watching, texting, and calling, of course. Now, also keep in mind that the camera really does stick out over here, so you might want to get a case for it because the quartz glass over here is really flush with the frame around it. So if you were to set it on a table, your phone is going to be pretty much sitting on the camera lens itself. So just something to keep in mind to make sure that you protect your investment and to make sure that your camera photos are going to be amazing, and which we will see in one of the next videos. And this is a 10 in my left hand over here, slightly smaller in size. Definitely feels a little bit more lightweight compared to the XR that's slightly larger, but certainly XS Max feels much better in hand, but it's also a little bit heavier because it is generally a bigger handset. So now that we know what all these look like, let's go ahead and start with our first test, which is going to be the YouTube. Alright guys, so for this test I am simply going to open one of my previous videos, and I will try to be as simultaneous as I can to make sure that I open all 3 videos on the 3 phones pretty much simultaneously, so we can just kind of observe and see how long it takes for each phone to essentially cache the YouTube video once you open it up. So ready, set, go. So 10 was actually first, and then followed by XS Max. I think that 10 and XS Max pretty much did their job very well, and XR is actually a little bit slower. It still performs very well, of course, when you pull up YouTube videos, but there's just that slight delay that you should expect of this phone when you're going to be watching videos if you decide to buy it. Alright, so now that we know how they performed with YouTube, let's go ahead and try weather.com, which is a very information-rich website. Again, trying to be simultaneous as much as I can. So what you can see right now is that they actually performed pretty much almost just as fast. 10 was a little bit slower here, but I think they did equally well, and I wouldn't say that there's a definite winner here. I will tell you that weather.com has a lot of scripts running in the background, so I have gone through a lot of fake iPhones that do not perform well in this test, and it takes up to a minute to completely pull up the website. So no apparent winner here. So your browsing experience is likely to be very similar on all these phones, except just remember that there's not as much screen clarity in the XR just because it's a smaller resolution and also smaller pixel per inch density. Alright guys, and this is the built-in maps that come with all iPhones straight out of the box, and this is New York, and I just want to demonstrate how easy it's going to be on all three of these phones to navigate, and that they're so efficient and so fast that you will hardly ever see any kind of a lag when you navigate or when you browse through the cities, or even if you're looking at three-dimensional maps. And very curious to see how XR is going to perform, and XR performs just as well. It's just as nimble as the flagships, so you won't really notice any difference here, and very, very smooth. So what we're going to do here, guys, we're going to run the 3D Mark, and this is going to be a great visualization for us. I do hypothesize that the iPhone XR and the XS Max will perform equally well just because they are on the same processor. They both have the A12 Bionic chip, and so they will be certainly outperforming the 10, but the XS Max and also the XR, which I think was a very wise decision by Apple to give the end users the same powerful processor that you can get in a flagship that's, you know, that costs a lot more and often over $1,000. So as a result, we will not see a huge visual difference between the XS Max and the XR, but the XS Max will outperform, along with the XR, will outperform the older iPhone X that actually does have the A11 Bionic, which is the CPU that they used in that generation of iPhones. Alright guys, so just how I hypothesized, the result is actually on the XR is completely identical. It's a 3-point difference, which is very, very negligible. So XS Max here and the XR performed equally well, and of course you have the 10, which is a phone from essentially 1 year ago, and it has the A11 Bionic chip, so it's not as versatile. So this is why your scoring is a little bit lower on the iPhone X, which doesn't mean that it's a bad phone. It's actually a great phone, and I would honestly prefer the iPhone X over the XR and even the XS Max just because of how expensive this is, and X has definitely a better screen compared to the R. But again, the choice is yours. I think this phone performs extremely well. Again, it's pretty much just like the flagship when it comes to performance. Alright guys, and the last, as I always say but not the least, this is going to be the battery benchmark test by Geekbench 4. I'm very curious to see how well the XR is going to perform, and it would be very interesting to see if it can actually outperform the 10 from the previous year. Without further ado, let's go ahead and run the benchmark. Alright guys, so the battery test is done, and of course the winner here is going to be the XS Max. It certainly has a much larger battery. The battery capacity on a XS Max is actually larger than on both of these, the 10 and also the XR, and its capacity is 3,174 milliampere hours. Just remember, even though it has a higher battery score, it is offset a little bit by the large, beautiful screen that is very bright and has great clarity. So this is the Super AMOLED technology that's used here, so it's gonna eat up the battery quicker than on these other two phones. So 3,960 battery score from Geekbench 4. What's interesting is that 10 and the XR, they actually do have a very similar score. This is a phone from the previous generation from 1 year ago, and they score pretty much identical to each other. Even though this screen is slightly larger on the XR, it is actually not as bright, doesn't have the same clarity, so it doesn't have the same energy consumption, and your pixel per inch density is actually lower on this phone right here, which is the XR. So of course the absolute winner here is XS Max. It's from a different size category, and I will tell you these will be even. And so this is our Geekbench 4 battery comparison test, and XS Max is the winner. Alright guys, so the iPhone XR is a great iPhone. Its huge screen is nice, the camera is great, those eye-catching colors present you with options beyond just black or white, like Apple likes to do usually. And in some scenarios, the iPhone XR even performs better than its more expensive iPhone XS counterpart. And if you like the last iPhones, you'll probably love this one too. It's still an iPhone after all. What's my conclusion and what's the verdict on this? So if you ask me, I think the iPhone XR is more than enough of a smartphone for most people. The single camera will treat you right. The screen is sharp enough for almost anything you'd be watching. And unless you're a photography buff, Apple's iPhone 10R will handle most anything you can throw at it. It's an iPhone after all. Now if you like this video, then please hit that like button down below, and I will see you guys in my next video very soon.
I wanted to tell you about sellcashier.com. So you just got your new iPhone. What will you do with your old one? You may be thinking of selling it on eBay, Craigslist, and so on, and it is definitely a hassle. Now you don't have to do that. Now you can sell it through sellcashier.com. They compare the actual prices of iPhones and give you the best price for your iPhone that you are trying to sell. And the good thing is that you are guaranteed the best rate. You also get a free shipping label. Thank you for watching, and please check out sellcashier.com.